Kosha, former CDC immunisations chief Dr Demetre Daskalakis has said he only sees harm coming under the direction of Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. after he resigned from the government organisation in protest, citing politicisation of public health under the Trump administration. But this is a man who has politicised his own role. He uses terms like pregnant people instead of women. He declares his pronouns like we don't know he's a man. I mean, he's precisely what is wrong with these public institutions which have been hijacked by activists, always activists from the left, and it seems like he can't cope under this administration that doesn't stomach that sort of activism.
He quit in a huff with 2 or 3 other colleagues when his boss, the head of the CDC, was ousted by the Trump administration earlier this week, and they're going out with big statements and proclamations about how vaccine science is being politicized. Basically, that's ostensibly what he's saying. But underneath that, anybody who uses pregnant people is, I think, at the far end of the spectrum of wokeism. So he's out there. He's got all the right credentials, but he, before this, worked for HIV prevention. He was a spokesperson for monkeypox and all of that stuff. So he's kind of a vaccine fanatic, actually, in terms of what he's been pushing around those things. But really, it sounds like more than vaccines, this other broader cultural stuff is part of his agenda. And a lot of people are just saying good riddance for people like him, whether it's him or Rachel Levine, the 4-star admiral who was the assistant health under the previous administration, secretary under the previous administration, and first openly trans person serving in that role, Woman of the Year. They gave that award.
Rachel.
Those people are the best poster child for the other side. Like, the more you put up photos of Bobby Kennedy and Trump and Pete Hegseth on one side of the split screen and then these guys on the other, nothing more needs to be said.
That's a very good point. But this whole notion of vaccine science being politicised, well, what happened during COVID? I mean, you could argue that's where vaccines were really undermined, and so many people who had 100% faith in vaccine science are now questioning that, because we did see something that isn't really a vaccine being called a vaccine. We were told it was going to prevent infection. It didn't. We were told it was going to stop people spreading it if you had the vaccine. It didn't do that either.
People lost jobs because of it. There was so much coercion, really, around it. The two things that have corrupted the medical institution, which I think has been more eye-opening compared to the media or other institutions that we've known have been corrupted for a while, is the way they handled COVID around the world, every establishment, and the other is the trans issue and how they're rushing to affirm, rushing into those interventions for young people, for minors especially, instead of looking at other alternatives. They really have had a fall from grace, and it's going to take a long time to build up their credibility.
A lot of people say the moment we had hundreds, I think it could have even been thousands of doctors saying that, oh no, those mass BLM rights, they're fine, that wasn't a public health issue. At the same time that they were saying stay in your homes, don't go to school, don't go to work, but somehow these rallies weren't going to be super spreader events. Now, if you believe the polls, the Trump administration is in a bit of trouble when it comes to its tariff policy, with CNN reporting that opposition to tariffs is up from 48% in 2024 to 60% today. Kosha, would that be troubling the administration, do you think?
I don't think on a deep level. Now, President Trump does enjoy polls and good polling, but on this issue, I think he is really sure of the fundamentals of his belief system around tariffs, that I think he's going to be quite steadfast. It's brought in, Secretary Bessent was saying something like $500 billion in new revenue. It's reindustrializing the heartland and other parts of America, bringing jobs back, recalibrating supply chains, getting vital products manufactured again within the U.S. boundaries, which is a national security benefit, and so much beyond that goes into this, that I just don't see him capitulating on tariffs, even though he is under attack on that issue, like everything else, by the media a lot, which is why probably that's reflected in the polls, as well as the courts. There's a court case right now. Some judge sued him that you can't do that, and all those things are going to make their way up to the Supreme Court, but I think he's going to stay on the path.
You know what, even if these stats are accurate, if these polling numbers are accurate and opposition has gone up from 48 to 60%, obviously most Republicans are in favour of the policy, but this is broadly across all voters. That's not too bad given the relentless negative publicity it has received. And you mentioned the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. He said last week that customs duty revenue from the Trump tariffs will reach around $500 billion a year. That's a significant jump from early estimates of $300 billion annually. That's going to make a difference. I mean, it's a significant amount that's going to come in every year to reduce the debt. And thus far, we haven't really seen that impact on prices and inflation. We were told it was going to cause a global recession. That obviously hasn't happened. So the doomsayers have got it wrong thus far.
For sure. That's a direct revenue benefit on top of all the other second-order benefits that we talked about, the job creation and reindustrialization and all of that on top of that, which leads to growth in the overall economy. So they really are trying to move towards balancing the budget for the first time in half a generation, which would be incredible if that happens. Yeah. It's a tall order. And inflation so far, at least, has not happened. It's better than what it was under Biden. And that was the big bogeyman that they were pointing to around tariffs. And we'll see. I'm waiting.
We'll see, and we'll see what deal Australia gets. We still haven't had our trade agreement. Incredible that our Prime Minister still hasn't sat down with the President. Now, Muriel Bowser, she's the Democrat mayor of DC. She railed against Donald Trump's intervention in her city to bring down violent crime, but she's now surprisingly trumpeting its success. Listen to this.
For carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C. We know that when carjackings go down, when the use of gun goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer. So this surge has been important to us for that reason.
Yes, less murders do make you feel safer. Very good observation there. Even the DC mayor there, Muriel Bowser, is happy with the impact of this federal intervention. That's quite a surprise, but the stats are spectacular.
Really, they are. Preach. Mayor Bowser, she should go over to Brandon Johnson, the Chicago mayor.
And New York and LA and everywhere else.
They love the murder. They don't want the help. And this is somebody from their team who, whether she knew that she was saying it or just it's so good that it's impossible to ignore, so she had to say it. Great spokesperson again for Team Trump, and maybe those guys are taking note.
It is incredible the lengths they are going to stop this intervention. I mean, why wouldn't you want to have extra help with law enforcement, even if it's a short-term thing? There's no suggestion that they're going to go in there and arrest law-abiding people. It's only criminals who fear them. So, it's incredible. Now, the director of the original Harry Potter movies, Chris Columbus, has said that the original cast is unlikely to reunite for future projects due to J.K. Rowling's pro-women views. In an interview with The Times, he said, "It's never going to happen. It's gotten so complicated with all the political stuff. Everyone in the cast has their own opinion, which is different from her opinion, which makes it impossible." Now, J.K. Rowling has responded to this on X. She wrote, "As another man who once worked with me declares himself saddened by my beliefs on gender and sex, I thought it might be useful to compile a list for handy reference. Which of the following do you imagine makes actors and directors who aren't involved with the HBO reboot of Harry Potter so miserable?" She then goes on to list a number of her beliefs, including that women and girls should have their own public changing rooms and bathrooms, that women should retain female-only rape crisis centres, that women should remain a protected class in law because they have sex-specific needs and issues. She lists a whole bunch of things that I think, 95% of reasonable people agree with Kosha. And it really just goes to show you how divorced from reality Hollywood, the entertainment world is, because J.K. Rowling is of the left. She's still of the left, and her views here are very reasonable. She is not about demonising any particular group or attacking them. She just wants to protect women and girls.
She, Martina Navratilova, these were classic feminists that the left loved. But on this issue, somehow the argument changed, and now it went from women to protecting, again, trans or other people, boys wanting to play in girls' sports and all of that. And these two have stayed steadfast, as have others, and they found themselves on the wrong side of Hollywood, which, as you say, I think is going to be a shrinking island. When the whole world ran an 80-20, this issue, maybe it's even 90-10 in terms of where people stand. We will get to 99-1, and still Hollywood people will never, ever capitulate on this point or admit that they were wrong. I also think that behind the story, there's good old-fashioned sour grapes going on, because HBO's remaking Harry Potter, basically, as a TV series. She owns the IP fully as a creator, so she's involved, and those guys are not. And maybe there's something there where they want a bigger piece of that pie that has made them very rich and very famous, and maybe that's part of this.
And she made quite a few actors of questionable talent very rich and very famous. You know, they were kids when they started out. As they got older, perhaps, you know, the talent didn't grow with them. It's really is quite incredible that you still see in just about every TV production, every Hollywood production, this trans ideology and political activism embedded in it. No matter how much people are saying we don't want this, you know, box-ticking exercise in every production, they're still doing it. Kosha Gada, thank you so much for your time today.
Always a pleasure.